All right, so welcome back to the WCG USA National Finals live right here from New York Comic-Con, brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. Again, I'm Corey Dunn alongside Lord Farquaad. Let's talk about what's happened so far, what we've seen. We saw our first best-of-5 series, which actually went the distance.
It did.
And between Team Cursed and Band Angels. Now, of course, what the matchup that we're waiting on right now is Buischti, and they're facing off against War and Peace.
That's correct. So,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, really close match by Team Curse and Band Angels. Team Curse getting up 2, at the start of it, and then Band Angels making a comeback and scoring 2 victories immediately following that. So to tie it up 2-2, and then the last match, that was rough. I mean, Curse really rolled Band Angels. Most of it, I think, was due to a T-32 kind of out of position there. Mm-hmm. And once one tank goes down, if you have the advantage, you just push really hard, and so that leads to that kind of roll that we saw. Generally, it's not as bad as it looks. It just looks really bad, It's like it was close, but it looked pretty bad, with that roll. But again, we saw that Band Angels twice able to beat Curse, so it wasn't a pushover. Curse was pretty nervous there. I was, we were talking with Nagatron, and they were a little concerned after those 2 losses. Right after their 2 victories, it's like, okay, we've kind of lost it here.
Well, that first map, they went straight for that shock and awe tactic. They went straight for the cap, and it really proved to work out for them. And then from that point, they were able to take the next game.
Yeah, according to Nagatron, as I was talking with him here, it was anybody's game, and as we saw, there was a lot of kind of, all right, don't know really where it's going, what's going on, but their artillery, Team Curse's artillery, was just able to I was told that was Relics playing the artillery, just able to consistently hit his shots, and so that really ended up turning it in their favor. So then they were able to push on already damaged tanks and just make, kind of mop up, basically. But then Band Angels coming back with those 2 victories. And, the first one, I thought for sure Curse was going to take it. With positionally, they had it. Again, that one was on Ruinberg, and Curse was actually able to flank them in the rear with a 5100. And that means 6 shots that they had that they could get down on those tanks right away from that one tank. And, they were outplayed. I mean, Band Angels knew as soon as they saw that, they made the right move. They pushed around the corner, and they face-hugged all the opposing IS-3s. That means both of them are just looking into each other's turrets, not going to get good shots, and they just outplayed them from there. So it was great play by Band Angels. And then on Lakeville, the same thing, except this time Team Curse ended up pulling their IS-3 out alone to try and flank Band Angels. As soon as Band Angels saw that, they pulled around everyone onto that one IS-3 and isolated him, took him down, and then moved on to the rest. At that point, they just kind of rolled right down the hill, as we saw, and took those guys out. Beautiful win for Band Angels.
Yeah, so then that brought us into seeing what happened there with the final map, and where Team Curse just kind of rolled on through and picked up that game 5. And so they're going to advance here through the winner bracket through the winner bracket. And but luckily enough for Band Angels, this is a double elimination best-of-5 tournament, and so they're still going to have their chance to kind of creep their way back through that loser bracket. And but that brings us to our next matchup here for World of Tanks. It's going to be Buischti. They're going to be facing off against War and Peace.
That will be on Ensk.
Yeah, it will be on Ensk, just like we saw on the first matchup to start things off. And again, for those of you that are just now tuning in, it's going to be the way the format works. Whichever team loses that previous map then gets to select the next map, and then so on and so forth until whichever team gets to 3 first. So, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this matchup coming up, though. So, give me a little bit more in depth on War and Peace.
Yeah, so as we were talking about a little bit ago with Nagatron, War and Peace, they've been around for a while. They have a history of a lot of high-end gameplay. They've been around for a long time. They were just in Ural Steel a month ago competing against the other server champions, so to speak. And now they're here against Buischti. Buischti is a relatively new team. But obviously they got here. They qualified, so they had to beat others to get here. So they're kind of I think everyone agrees here that they're kind of a wild card. You don't know what's going to happen. They may just dominate everyone, or who knows what could happen. We don't know what could happen with Buischti. Anything sky's the limit, I think, as far as what could happen with Buischti. I can't really make a prediction because I haven't seen them play before.
And sometimes that's a huge benefit because whenever you're going to a matchup, I mean, you look at whenever you're playing against your opposing team, you already have done your scouting per se, and from that point you can kind of adjust because you already know what they're doing. If they do something different, then you know it's outside their norm. But whenever you bring in a new team like this with Buischti coming into play here, it's going to be a completely different playing style. You don't know what to expect. So it almost, and this may be a stretch here, but it might actually put you on your defense and kind of see what's going to happen.
Yeah, it really can. And we've seen some teams do that where they either played way too aggressively or way too defensively against kind of that unknown team because they either thought, oh, we don't know what's going to go on, so they played really defensively, or oh, we think we've got this, so they rolled in overconfident and just totally lost it. So that mental game could be very much a factor for War and Peace as they go in. They have to really play it careful and play it like they would against anyone else. Not throw the game away with kind of that kind of mental game where we're going to play defensively or need to play offensively.
It's all about that meta game that comes into play here.
It really is.
Every bit of this, especially from the moments that I've been watching these matches, just seeing the mentality that goes through it, understanding what their position is. I mean, we saw a lot of different angles working around. I mean, it was almost mirror images of each other, how they were kind of angling. Again, you had mentioned as well, I mean, understanding the advantages that your tank offers and some of the disadvantages at the same token.
Yeah, and that's huge.
But give you a quick little roster rundown. What we're waiting for right now as well is just kind of getting these teams all set up. I mean, they get the chances to make sure their configs are all set up, make sure that everything will look and feel is exactly what they want, and more or less what they expect at home. So we've got for War and Peace, you've got Tarantula, you have Caesar, Tonka. You said that's Patriel?
Patriel, yep.
Patriel, Spirit, Farva, and Slider, who's going to be playing there for War and Peace. And on the other side, I beg their pardon already, but I mean I'll take blame for that. In the beginning, calling them a bunch of different names, but Buischti, we've got Free, Braddock, Mark HD, Stuffy. Gonna butcher this one, probably like Cleaferg. And then you said that was...
it looks like Sauron, yeah.
Sauron, and then we also have Alexis. And so we'll see how well this one kind of plays out here between these two teams. Again, coming in as the number 2 seed is War and Peace, and Buischti coming in as the number 3 seed. So they not only kind of worked their way into the tournament, but they worked their way into a little bit of a higher seed getting into the game. So.
Yeah, so again, there's that unknown. Why are they there? What's up with this team? We don't know them that well. A lot of the individual players have been around for a while, but like looking at this lineup, I don't really recognize a whole lot of Buischti's names. I recognize pretty much everyone from Team Curse, from War and Peace, and from Band Angels, but not from Buischti. So that's a little scary that they've gotten here, and no one really knows too much about them. Again, that's that unknown we were talking about.
Again, we've gone over it. It's the good and the bad. I mean, you can either go in aggressive thinking that you can overpower your opponent, or you might go in too passive and kind of just adjust on the fly. And at some token, you mentioned this is a game that you need to be 2 steps ahead of your game, knowing where you need to be. That may set you back.
Yeah, generally we've seen that teams that play passive lose. It's just that's how it works.
Makes sense to me.
If you play defensively, you've already lost the game. Generally, that's how it goes. It's just something about that mentality. You don't have the advantage. You're not controlling the match.
Let's go ahead and see if we can hop in here. You can go and take control here.
Yeah.
So again, we're here at the WCG USA National Finals live here in New York Comic Con. It's brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. And, it's been a great event so far. We've had day number 1. We went through the team first-person shooter Crossfire. We saw some really great action throughout that whole tournament, great team first-person shooter. But then, of course, today it's all about World of Tanks and a bunch of great 7v7 shooter, if you will. And then also tomorrow, make sure you stick around or check out the twitch.tv/WCG USA page. If you're already there, make sure you click the follow button so you're already know exactly what time we go live tomorrow. And we'll have StarCraft 2 and FIFA 12 at that point, also at the exact same time frame. You might as well just pull up your browser on 2 different screens, and so that way you can see the New York Comic-Con event coverage with panels, interviews, and more. That's at twitch.tv/WCG NYCC. So that way, during some of the breaks, some of the downtime that happens over here on the stream, especially whenever these gamers are getting the opportunity to kind of get set up, you can check out what's going on the other side. I actually had the moment to see Hitman Absolution. I'm not going to lie. Whenever it comes to single-player stuff, whenever it comes to kind of going through like a career or something, I'm not a big fan of. But that video hyped me up, and actually kind of watching what they were going through is really, really cool. So it's something to kind of check out, especially if you're in chat and you get the chance to watch some other stuff that's going on here at the New York Comic-Con. So I believe we've started to work our way here into the game. Again, the first map is going to be on Insk, and I think we've kind of taken every type of information we can. We just need to get ready and get this game going here.
At this point, we're just waiting for invites in the room from the players, and then we'll get going. I'm sure they're all arguing a little about, what tank should I bring? What tank should you bring? Why do you say I should bring that one? That's kind of the argument that goes down. And everybody has 10 opinions, and so they all try to implement those.
So this is coming from an outsider's point of view. Whenever you're coming in, are you typically a certain type of player? Are you a spotter? Are you a artillery? Or does that position kind of change amongst the team?
The answer is yes to both. Because there are some people that are very much one particular type of thing. I'll actually use Nagatron as an example, who I just interviewed. He's known for playing his lights really well. Okay, he's a good light player. And as a result of that, you don't see him in heavies and other things too much, partly because you need a light, and partly because, usually if you're really good at one thing, you're not quite as good at the rest.
Right.
And I'm not speaking, he may be awesome at the rest, but
highly doubtful.
Yeah, exactly, right. So, I'm more of a general player. I'm pretty good at everything, but not really good at any one particular thing.
Yep.
So it just kind of depends. And most of the guys that you'll see in, say, the heavy and medium tanks are more like me. They're good at either one. That's why you have them switch off between the heavies and the mediums a lot. You tend to rotate them through those because those are similar play styles, and they can make use of those.
That part actually makes a lot of sense, because whenever you're talking about map variations and stuff like that, there's instances where you'll need an artillery. There's other instances where you need different types of tanks, which all makes complete sense. I think is trying to get at the understanding of different types of playing styles, because I know that whenever you go into a game with one type of mindset and then the next map you have to change your whole mental game, I'd make the assumption there's not that much of a variation between a medium and a heavy tank.
I mean, there's not much on the surface, but there is in how they play. I mean, once you get down to the nitty-gritty of how they really play, it's extremely different. Heavies are generally, obviously by name, they're heavier, they're slower. They tend to pack a lot more firepower right up front. So they're going to fire a large shot off, do a lot of damage, but then they're going to reload longer.
Right.
They tend to have more armor. Again, generally they're obviously slower, larger HP pools.
Yep.
All right. With the mediums, they're faster, more maneuverable. Generally, they have lower gun depression, so they're better at fighting over hills and stuff. And they have higher DPM usually, so they're able. If you can't just pull in and get that shot off and pull back and then reload. You want to get a couple shots off for every shot the enemy's taking, because overall you'll win if you can get every shot off and make it count.
Right.
But if you don't, you're going to lose to his alpha damage. The per shot damage that he's doing. So there's a lot of little things that you have to learn about how to play that one, where you're going to position it. Your heavies are generally larger, so you have to be more careful about how you line them up on corners. It's really easy to stick too much of yourself out there. Little things like that make the play at a high level, make them very, very different from each other.
How often does it come about whenever you can sit there and watch a matchup, and just off the setups off the start, can you know which team has won?
At this level of play, it's not very often that can happen. But when you watch some lower level tournaments, for example, you can generally tell. I would say almost most of the time you can tell by looking at the lineups to say, all right, I probably know which team is going to win here, just based off of their lineup in conjunction with the map.
Yep.
And we saw that, for example, at the PAX tournament we saw a beautiful example of how a bad lineup can go wrong, where one team rolled up with IS-3s over a hill, and so they didn't have the depression to hit the opposing T-32s, and they just got decimated. I don't think the opposing team lost a single tank, and they lost everyone. So, choosing the wrong tank for the wrong map can really hurt your game, especially if you don't play it right. If you play, an IS-3 over a hill, that's probably not so good. So things like that definitely come into play.
All right, we should be getting an invite here shortly. So I think what we might do, just so we don't banter for too much longer and run out of even more things to say later on. But so just bear with us. We've got they're almost ready to go here in just a moment, but we'll make sure that we hop back into game just in time. Again, you're watching the WCG USA National Finals live from New York Comic-Con, brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. And we'll be right back with more World of Tanks with myself, Corey Dunn, alongside Lord Farquaad, and we'll be right back.
They asked me, how do you become a pro gamer?
All right, so welcome back here to the WCG USA National Finals right here and live at Newark Comic-Con, brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. Again, I'm Corey Dunn alongside Lord Farquaad as we're about to get back underway with more World of Tanks. In our second matchup right here with Buischti facing off against War and Peace. As you can see, we're already about to get underway with 15 seconds left before the battle starts.
So this will be interesting. You know, both teams, and wow, that's very interesting. I'll comment on that in a second. So both teams being able to see what the previous two teams did.
Okay.
Probably, you know, changed their lineups a little bit. Said, all right, let's think about this a little differently. It looks like, I believe we're following Team Buischti here. And this is really interesting. They actually have a T-34. Which is a premium tank, and the premium tanks are generally balanced to be less effective than a normal tank would be. So you very rarely see the T-34 in matches. But if you're going to use a premium tank in a competitive event, this is the one to use. This particular tank has very high alpha, so he does a lot of damage per shot. He also has an incredible turret, so if you can get hull down somewhere, it's very difficult to penetrate just the turret. There are a lot of opportunities to do that through windows and stuff here on Ensk, so we'll see if they can make use of that. It looks like Team Buischti here just kind of maneuvering into position, getting ready for a possible counter. Meanwhile, they have, take a look at this little T1 they have out here in the field. He's just there as insurance, an insurance policy, in case War and Peace decide to come through the field. He'll be able to at least spot them. He's not going to do any damage to them, obviously, but at least be able to know exactly where they are. And they're probably going to start moving this T1 now. Now they've kind of did not even spot the guy who killed him. But that's what he was there for. That's why they moved him out there and not someone else. He was just there to see if he could light someone up. Now that they're in position. And now they know that T-32 is there, so it looks like War and Peace is probably gone. Generally, if you find one of the tanks, you know that most of them are probably there together. That seems to be pretty much the way to go. So it looks like Buischti now, they're going to try and move through the center, through the F line. It's a bit risky, but if they can pull it off. And War and Peace setting up on the opposing side. They're going to try and deny them. Oh, War and Peace taking some fire there, though. And it's going back and forth. We have kind of a 2-on-2 situation here. IS-3 and T-32 versus IS-3 and 5100. Now, a key here is if those War and Peace tanks keep pulling out, they want to track them because this 5100 can just load a bunch of rounds right into them. All right, but looks like they're gonna move out, kind of reposition there, more against the building. You don't want to take fire. Ooh, IS-3 going out there. I don't know if that's what you want to do. There are a lot of guys in that corner. Yep, and he's going to take a lot of fire. I don't know. Oh, and they pulled that 5100 out. I'm not sure why they did that. They're a bit surrounded now with those War and Peace tanks now on both sides. They have to be really careful how they maneuver through here. Maybe they're now this may be interesting. If they can capitalize on this, yep, and push right up the center. They've seen tanks on both the east and the west. There may be no one in the center.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Almost.
Looks like there was a very lucky bounce on his rear there. You don't want to count on that twice. Only 14%. Yep, he's going to go down.
It takes out so far. That's 2 players down now.
For Buischti. And looks like we have 2 more at less than 50% right here. Oh, 3 at 50% or less here. That's going to be pretty rough. It's going to be all come down to how they play their tanks, how they concentrate their fire. Their 5100 going down. The T-34 is probably about to go down as he's being flanked. This IS-3 does not have long to live. Left alone here in the corner. Surviving longer. Oh, and looks like the 5100 has managed to take out a T-32 there. But, you know, he's not going to be able to take on all 6 guys left alone. that's going to be kind of rough. And I think this match is going to go to War and Peace. Yep, and there it is.
Yeah, no, so this game was really quick. I mean, you had War and Peace just kind of take it, there against Buischti and kind of run down exactly what happened throughout that match.
So, I mean, there wasn't too much that Buischti did wrong here. It was just a matter of War and Peace capitalizing on what they probably not even what they saw. Looking at their map, it wasn't really even what they saw. It's what they thought Buischti might be doing. So it was all about that meta game, really. Both teams' position, and then War and Peace finding that flank. They pushed into the flank at just the right time, caught Buischti with 2 tanks down that center lane there, and that's what really killed them. Once those 2 guys were so low on health, they had to pull through, and they had to find something to do. You couldn't just sit there. So they pulled through. Both got killed. Again, it's just a matter of finding those isolated tanks or isolating those tanks, and that's exactly what War and Peace did.
All right, so right now War and Peace has a 1-0 lead, and so now that's going to allow Buischti to select the second map.
And it looks like they're going to select Himmelsdorf, so this is an all-city map. I would expect mostly IS-3s on this map. Again, with those forward-sitting turrets, low to the ground, you'll probably see mostly, if not all, IS-3s. Maybe some T-32s. You can tend to bounce some odd shots off of those T-32s if you angle them well enough. So it's hard to say. We have seen before some Tiger 2s, which I don't expect to see, but you never know. Someone may always choose to change it up a little bit. And I mean, that T-34, I did not expect to see him in there. So we'll see if Buischti can. It's got to be a bit of a morale loss. They've lost their first one. They're here with some, a different level of team, so to speak. They're kind of the ones that have something to prove.
Right.
So, part of me wants the new guy to win. I mean, not gonna lie, I cheer for the underdog. Who doesn't, right?
Got to keep that storyline alive.
Right, exactly. So I'm kind of hoping Buischti, War and Peace is not out of it even if they were to lose it. I'm kind of hoping Buischti can pull at least something off. I want to see some good games here. And again, they've made it this far, so they're definitely good players. It's just a matter of, live event. Things are a little different at a live event. There's a lot more pressure when you're here at an actual location, and we've seen that. Most of these teams that are playing here have already been at a live event. They're kind of used to it, if not a couple live events. So they're a little more accustomed to it than Buischti is.
Well, while we wait for the second matchup here in this best of 5, let's go ahead and take a quick moment and thank our sponsors. We'll be right back here from the WCG USA National Finals, live right here from New York Comic Con, brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. We'll be right back. right, so welcome back here to the World Cyber Games USA National Finals as we're about to get back underway here in just a moment. The game's actually about to go live as we've got War and Peace going up against Buischti as now we're in game.
And War and Peace is up 1. And looks like we're looking at War and Peace here. And not too surprising that they're kind of moving out towards the east, probably down the 7-8 line. And meanwhile, and it looks like Buischti's doing the exact same thing actually. Buischti's going to also move down the 7-8 line. That's pretty typical, kind of what you'd expect to see here. So
this was their map that they selected too.
It was their map. So, it's kind of going to be up to them a little to make the push. They got to be really careful. They have their tanks out in the open. This is an alley on which many tanks die. And these players are all used to that. They know that happens. So, we'll see. So we'll see what happens here with Buischti up, and they're pushing up into War and Peace there. Now there is some rubble here that's fairly new. So if Buischti, you notice this IS-3 here, hold down in front of that piece of rubble, they have any good shots on them. Buischti, maybe this is what they're counting on. These maps have been changed recently due to some updates, so they may be counting on War and Peace not quite being ready for some of these extra things in the path. Just this one little change right here, and this one right here can make a huge difference on how this lane is pushed. We'll see if it pays off for them.
All right, now we're about to see some type of confrontation here as they're both starting to push up, and right now it looks like
no one's taken any damage yet. There've been a lot of shots fired, but I don't see any damage. All right, and wow, looks like War and Peace going to finally take some pretty significant damage there.
Yeah, one at 47, one at, I believe, at 76, and another at like 50.
Oh, you know what? This is it right here. Buischti made a beautiful move, pushing two 5100s in on the side. One of the 5100s is going to go down, though. That's going to hurt. He probably should have pulled back. He was sticking himself a little bit too far out there. They definitely have, despite this death, I think Buischti still has the hit point advantage. So War and Peace is going to have to be really careful. They lost an awful lot. They took an awful lot of damage.
Wow.
They lost both 5100s. You know what? I thought they had it. They had it there for a minute. I think they may have just lost it.
Yeah, so basically what we've seen, this is very similar to what we saw on the first map, is Buischti, what they decided to do was they split up and tried to flank around on the side, and they split up their offense, and we're seeing that time here again, and they were getting focus fired.
Yeah, War and Peace, they have a lot of experience doing this and learning to isolate the tanks. And I think, the big thing that killed them here, that killed Buischti, was leaving that 5100 out there for too long.
Right.
And so he just got eaten up. It takes him a few seconds in between each shot, even though he has all those rounds preloaded. So, it's a hard call. You want to get that shot off so bad because you want to finish that one tank off. But you just cannot afford against most of these players. Once it gets down to it, they're just not going to miss very often. So you can't really afford to sit in there. So we saw a huge reversal there by War and Peace. Very well played. Just lasted a couple minutes there. That was pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean, just again, what I noticed from my perspective was very similar to what we saw on the first map, in the sense that Buischti, they decided to have their players kind of split up throughout the city and kind of take two different angles on the opponent, and then from there you had War and Peace. They were collective, they were collaborated together, and they focus fired on certain tanks. Now, you had mentioned that in this second map that there was a lot of damage dealt to War and Peace. Well, that's in my opinion, that's a fact. But the only difference is that damage was spread across the board, and which again,
it wasn't the focus fire that they really needed to have. And those 5100s, I think still positionally they had it. They had those 5100s. That's 12 shots with 300 damage each. All right, so that is 3,600 damage. That's at least two tanks out of the game right there if they focus their shots. But they didn't. They rushed some of their shots. They ended up missing a few. Then they stood out there too long.
That
took
definitely
too much damage, and then they ended up losing both of the 5100s, not just one. And so they had their advantage, but they pushed their advantage too hard, and I think that ultimately cost them. You know, if they had gotten out there, got a few shots off, and then pulled back, they probably would have still been in it just fine and have gained the advantage. Because they gained that advantage in just a couple seconds. All of a sudden, half of War and Peace's tanks are almost dead, but they weren't able to finish it. And that's really what counts, because that gun will damage you just as much when he's at 20% as it will when he's at 100.
Yeah, these games are just flying by between Buischti and the War and Peace, as War and Peace are just finding those holes in the that offense that they're bringing out there. And again, you'd mentioned it's just they had the chance.
They did, and it was a great play, and it could have very easily gone in Buischti's favor. I thought they had it, but then War and Peace just pulled it off. Buischti probably rushed it a little too much. War and Peace taking the time to make sure those shots counted. You don't want to fire a shot and then be reloading for the next 10 seconds while the other guy pulls up and gets shot. So you want to make sure they count. It's one of the biggest, easiest mistakes to make at any level is to rush your shot, get it off too fast, and miss the target, or hit the target in a place where it doesn't do damage, versus making sure it actually counts.
Well, definitely about understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each tank and knowing what you're using. And War and Peace right now just showing that they're solid contenders all the way through. So right now they lead this series 2-0 here over Buischti. And right now we're waiting to see what exact map Buischti is going to decide on.
It's their map, their choice, and we'll see. Looks like there's been some potentially some server issues here, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break. Again, we'll be right back here from the WCG USA National Finals right here live from the New York Comic-Con, brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. Again, I'm Corey Dunn alongside Lord Farquaad, and we'll be right back with more World of Tanks after the break.
asked me, how do you become a pro gamer? Practice, practice, practice. When my mom sees me in tournaments and things like that, she realized how, oh, it's a big deal. You're a competitor and you're the top player in these games. You're banking. Everything that you're doing in the game, there's sound to it. The reload of a shotgun at a corner, you're able to hear that at a distance. If someone's reloading around my corner, that guy's gonna die soon. Everyone plays to win. I mean, let's be real here. Some of these top pro players can't even pass the second round of Pac-Man. Going up to the stage, it's really exciting. That's the thing. It's over the edge. Everyone in the background was just cheering on. With the surround sound, you're so enhanced in the game at this point. If the world was ending behind me, I couldn't tell. Focus is the key when it comes to competition. It gets really intense. Headsets give you that advantage. Command victory.
All right, so welcome back to the WCG USA National Finals, live right here from New York Comic Con brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. Again, I'm Corey Dunn alongside Lord Farquaad, and currently we are playing World of Tanks, or at least watching some competition.
Right.
Probably a good thing I'm not playing World of Tanks, but we've got Buischti facing off against War and Peace. And we had mentioned that Buischti has this storyline that they're the underdogs or the unknown factor that kind of comes in. But right now they were down 2-0 here against War and Peace. And really, and this is just my perspective on things and watching this game, is they've kind of split up their offense, which can be beneficial. And we saw that during the second map that it may have worked out, and it could have worked out.
It was working beautifully at first, but you know.
War and Peace are a very strong and talented team. So let's go ahead and hop onto this map and kind of take a look and see how this one's going to pan out. Again, the way that this works is it's a double elimination best-of-5 series, and so the losing team gets to select this map. So that means that Buischti decided on this one. See what kind of ideas they have to work with here.
And it looks like they went with steps, which we saw earlier. Again, that was the one where Team Curse kind of rolled Band Angels just a little bit ago. So very curious to see what comes of this. And it looks like Buischti is going very heavy. At least let me make sure that we are actually with Buischti. Yeah, I believe we are. We are looking at Buischti here with the ELC. Here we go. And they're going very heavy on the scouts. They have a 50-2 and an ELC backed up with one artillery piece. It's a very risky play, I think, personally. You know, it may pay off for them in the end, but it's extremely risky. Those 50-2s now are extremely hard to play because with the introduction of physics, you tend to slide a lot more than you intend to.
Kind of look over here on the other side, kind of get a glimpse of what we're working with.
It looks like... Again, War and Peace, they have those two 1390s there, trying to stay away, out of Artie's reach by staying by the behind the rocks there.
That's Farva and Slider working together behind the rocks.
And they're just trying to stay. That 50-2 is trying to keep them spotted, but again, artillery is not going to be able to do very much to them behind those rocks. There's just not much you can do. Get a terrible, terrible angle on them.
All right, so let's go and see. Now we're back over here with Buischti and CC.
And let's see what else is going on here with Buischti. They're pretty much just positioned up along this ridge. Kind of looks like they're waiting for War and Peace to come to them. But, you know, War and Peace don't have to go anywhere. I mean, they're up 2-0. They have the time. If anyone has it, they do. And let's see here. Looks like the ELC has spotted a T-32. Again, Buischti trying to make use of their artillery. Ooh! And a big hit, looks like from an IS-3, the one IS-3 on the map. That ELC is now at 4%. He has to be really careful. If he bumps into anything or anything hits him, he is gone.
Yeah, get down to 4%.
Looks like War and Peace is starting to make their move. If we can switch over to the War and Peace side, see kind of what's going on here. They're starting to move down on the west side. They're just keeping everyone on the east kind of occupied, making, you know, it's kind of like the magician showing his hand.
That Slider right there.
Up, and there, look at that. Slider in with the artillery. That's going to take away.
Great movement across the board there, too. He's just kind of moving back and forth, taking advantage of it, and able to take him out. So the artillery is now down.
Yeah, and Buischti just not able. Ooh, Buischti scout here making a run for the artillery, but he just got taken out by the IS-3. And
that's 3. Make that 4 down here for Buischti. So War and Peace, they are leading this series 2-0, and this could, just by the sheer numbers of it, this could be it.
Yeah, I think, you know, at this point, I mean, it's always possible, but it would be an incredible comeback from Buischti at this point to make that, you know. And the advantage is now heavily in favor of War and Peace, especially they have that tier 8 artillery piece. I mean, he can almost one-shot anything left here if he hits them hard enough.
Buischti right here, you've got one member stuck behind these rocks.
Yeah, and meanwhile, War and Peace just trying to keep them spotted. See, once they're close enough, they can spot just by the sheer noise.
Proximity of it?
Yeah, proximity of it. Yeah, the sheer noise of the tank is the theory there, I believe.
That's Farva kind of making sure that he stays spotted, but in the distance.
There we go.
You've got, that's Patrial. He's got a teammate accompanying him here. Tonka joining into the action over there. He's going to kind of start to be able to help him out.
Yeah,
they're
looks
low
like,
on health too.
Yeah, War and Peace is just bringing everyone in now. Getting that T-32 hole down there. There goes one, T-32. Only one left. He's just been sitting back here trying, there he goes. So all they have left now is this poor little T1 Cunningham. And it looks like
he's got it.
Yeah, you think so? You think he got it?
I
wouldn't count him out. I wouldn't count him out.
Call him the CBK, the comeback kid.
The comeback kid with a tier 1. If you could do it, you would be the comeback king for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Oh, and there he goes. Won't say that we saw that coming with that 261 there. So nice play by War and Peace. War and Peace will take that round, but again, it is double elimination. So Buischti now having some more experience. You still don't really know just because you see them knocked out of one round. Sure, the performance was a bit of an issue there, but now coming into this next round, the losers bracket against Band Angels, it's a tough team, but they're still a bit of an unknown. You don't want to underestimate them, or you could still end up losing.
That was a tough game there for Buischti all the way across the board. I mean, just going through, getting 3-0'd is also, it's a morale factor. I mean, it does make an impact. That's going to give Band Angels, they've also been watching here this entire time as well, watching the matchup and how they've been playing.
Yeah,
and so they've got a kind of an understanding there what happened during Game 1 and Game 2. And they actually were behind the players watching them play. So although they may have been an unknown factor, they were watching how they were communicating. They were watching just their entire play style. So every bit of this is going to come into a factor. So I'm not going to count out Buischti at this point,
but it is going to be rough.
It's going to be really difficult.
It's going to be rough. And Band Angels is not a team to be dealt with lightly. So that's their next matchup is against Band Angels. So that's going to be rough. Team Curse facing War and Peace. We heard from Nagatron earlier. That's kind of who he thought they might be up against, and it looks like that's in fact going to be the case. So we'll see who can pull it off in that next round coming up.
Yeah, 3-0 victory there with War and Peace over Buischti. So let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be right back with one of the members of War and Peace right here from the WCG USA National Finals, right here live from New York Comic Con, brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. And we'll be right back.